All right, guys, today we got a 2014 Ford Explorer with a 3.5 liter in it. It's a no start, and we want to show you how we find out what the problem is. So let's get into it. Okay, so Chris and I are going to show you guys how we do this. So this car came in with a battery was dead.
Battery's completely dead.
Stone cold battery. So we put a battery in it, and it spins over and doesn't start. So what's causing that, right? So I always like to make things make sense. More than likely, this thing had some kind of issue, wouldn't start, and then somebody just kept cranking and cranking and cranking and cranking, killed the battery. So that's a secondary problem. So we fixed the secondary problem with the battery.
Yeah.
Now we got to fix the primary problem. So we kind of want to go into it with you and just show you step by step how we're going to get to this problem as quick as possible. So give it just a second. We're going to get some stuff hooked up on it, and then we'll come back and show you where we start. We've got the battery maintainer on it because we don't want to continue to have a battery issue. So the battery maintainer's on it. Come on in, let's show you. This is just kind of what I've always taught and what I've always done because I want to get the answer as quick as possible. This one's fairly easy to get to everything, so this is why we did this. We've got fuel pressure gauge hooked up. We did have to key into the line, okay? So, because that way we wanted to, let's back up for 1 second. What does it have to start? Got to have compression. We spun it over. It's got compression, so we know it's got that. We've got to have spark, right? We've got to have injector pulse. We've got to have fuel pressure, okay? And we got to have all that at the right time. So if we've got all that, the engine should run. So we want to try to eliminate as many things as possible first go, right? So as soon as we start on it, we want to get the answer. So the fuel pressure gauge is hooked up, so we can check fuel pressure. If it was super, super hard to hook the fuel pressure gauge up, we might do something different, but it's not. So we've got a spark tester on one of the ignition coils, okay? We've got an annoyed light on one of the injectors. So, and this is going to give us our first go. And depending on what we get here, again, data-driven diagnostics, once we find out this, then we're going to go down to the next step. So now we need to spin it over and see what we've got or what we're missing, because we're missing something.
Yes.
We'll go ahead and spin it over, Chris?
Yep.
So let's watch this. You can come on in, we'll watch the gauge. I'll just kind of put everything right here. That way we can get all three of them all at once. All right. So now we see that we've got fuel pressure, we've got injector pulse, and we've got spark. So what are we missing here? We're not missing anything. And we can hear that cadence kind of started to catch on. It wasn't doing that earlier.
No, it was not.
So earlier, right when we put the battery in it just sat there and spun, didn't do anything. So now where do we go next? Okay, let's not go down a rabbit hole here because it's easy to do with this. First thing I want to do, because we have everything now to start, but it's loping and like it's trying to start, and it wasn't doing that earlier, and now it is doing that, so it's getting better, we'll say, yes. Right? So let's do this. Let's get a spark plug out of it, and let's see if we got some kind of fuel fouling on the spark plug. Give us 1 second. We'll get the spark plug out of it. We'll come right back. We got a spark plug out of it. It is really fuel foul. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see all the liquid on it? I don't know how that's coming across on the camera. It's just full of fuel. That's liquid fuel. So, whew, yeah. Okay, so let's do this. Let's check the gap on it. I've got my trusty gap on it, and it's sitting about 65. I already looked up the spec. It's 49 to I think 54. So clearly these are worn out. Now, before we go putting spark plugs in this, because to do the rear ones, the plenum has to come off, okay? So I want to hear this thing run. I want to be sure there's no other issues. I don't want the client paying for us to pull an intake plenum off and we think we got a slam dunk, we're going to stick 6 spark plugs in this thing and we're going to be good. More than likely, yes, but let's be sure. So what we want to do is, can you grab me an air hose, Chris?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to get my old school spark plug bead blaster, all right? I don't even know if you can buy these anymore. Matco made this one, so probably. It's just got some bead in it. It's like a little sand blaster for spark plugs. And what we're going to do is we're going to stick it in here. Do the blast. A little air. And now She's cleaned off pretty good. All the fuel is off of it. Okay. Obviously, if you don't have that, that's going to be something a little different. You could get 3 spark plugs, stick it in the front, or you could take a lighter and you could light it, burn all the fuel off of it, take a little torch if you have that, shoot it in there and get it where you burn the fuel off of it. It's not going to spark properly with the fuel on it. Okay, so we got to get that liquid off of the spark plug. So I'm just real quick. I'm not even doing this. Is just down and dirty. I'm going to close that gap up just a touch. Maybe. That might have been a little too aggressive. No, so now we're down to about 54. So we're all right. So we're going to do that to the other 3, the other 2 on the front here. Obviously, we're not doing anything on the back. I think if we get the 3 front ones clean, it's going to give this thing a better opportunity to start. And so hopefully we can get it to start and run by doing that. So give us a second. We're going to do the other 2, and then we'll come right back. So we've got the 3 spark plugs cleaned. We've got them installed again. We don't have the coils bolted down. We did torque the spark plugs back in. We've just got the coils set on here. They're on here tight. They're not going anywhere. Now, we're very straightforward with everybody. We have a TikTok and we have YouTube. I'm sure a lot of you know that. If you don't know that we got a TikTok, jump over there. We put a lot of stuff on there. It's usually more funny and quick stuff. This is more educational side. But if you're on TikTok and you want to follow us, World Child of Service on TikTok. So we're doing this video. It's hard to get time to do these videos. So when we have time, we try to do multiples at the same time. And so we're doing a TikTok on this and we're doing a YouTube on this at the same time. Well, we got the spark plugs in here and we were spinning it over and showing it on TikTok. And I will, just so y'all know, because we bring you kind of up to speed on it, it took a little bit for this thing to start. It was spinning and spinning and spinning and trying to catch and spinning and trying to catch. So what Chris is doing in there is he's clear flooding it. So right now it's probably going to start a lot easier because we have had it running for we let it run for like 5 seconds just to make sure the engine's good. And now we want to show you guys. So what he had to do was clear flood it, which is hold the gas pedal all the way on the floor. Now that does not work on every single car line. It works on most Fords, so double check that. If you hold that bad boy on the floor and it fires right off, shut it off quick. Don't sit there and hold it on the floor. If there is clear flooding, you hold it on the floor, what it'll do is it'll spin over, because what it's doing is it's shutting off the fuel injectors. It's not letting the fuel injectors flow. Well, why are we doing that on this one? We know we have 3 clean spark plugs on the front of this. And we know the back ones are not clean, they're going to be fuel fouled. By clear flooding it, it's allowing the air to come in, go around those 3 rear spark plugs with no fuel, and it's getting some air to blow across them and cleaning them up just a little bit. It is not going to work with all 6 of them fuel fouled like that, okay? So, but with 3 of them doing good, we can get the other 3 kind of a little bit clean, and we can get this thing kind of pumping a little bit. It took about 4 or 5 tries, Chris?
Yeah, roughly.
4 or 5 tries to get this thing to really catch and go. All right, so what do I mean by 4 or 5 tries? Chris is sitting there holding on clear flood, spinning, letting off while it's spinning, and see if it'll catch. If it catches, a couple seconds, if it doesn't start right up, he'll stop because we don't want to keep putting fuel in it. He'll clear flood again, spin, let off the gas while it's spinning, try it again. So we did that 4 or 5 times, and then it was able to catch, and fire it off. Okay, so most of y'all are going to know what that kind of sounds like, where it's kind of catching, and then boom, it fired up. So probably right now it's going to catch, even though we didn't run it for very long, it's probably going to catch pretty quickly, but he's still going to do the clear flood because I guarantee those spark plugs in the back are still not good. So he's going to do the clear flood. He's going to spin it, and after about 3 seconds, he's going to let off, and we're going to see if it'll fire off. So let's do that now. Fired off really easy, guys. So that thing did not fire off like that originally. I will tell you, it took a little bit. So go ahead and rev it up, Chris. Give it a little gas, just one little time. Okay, we're good. So I know, this is I will tell you that this is one of the things, I'm glad this actually turned out to be this, because we didn't know what it was going to be. We thought maybe fuel pump, or who knows. So I'm glad it turned out to be just fouled spark plugs. because a lot of times people will go down the rabbit hole on this. I know I mentioned that earlier, but they'll go down the rabbit hole on something like this. Oh, I've got a good battery, it won't start. Well, I got fuel pressure, or I've got injector pulse, I've got spark. Oh, what could it possibly be? They'll go straight to timing or some kind of engine issue, and there we go. Hey, we can come on down the rabbit hole. It's real nice down here. Yeah, stay out of the rabbit hole. Okay, so let's think logically here. It's got all that stuff. The cadence of the engine was okay. It wasn't like originally. It starts doing that when it starts to fire, but you know the difference between it firing and it just having bad compression. So if it had timing off, you would kind of hear the way the cadence of the engine would sound different. So if you get one like that and it just won't start and you have everything, pull a spark plug out and look at it. You're going to clearly see, just like we did on this one, completely fuel fouled. I know a lot of people, most people are not going to have this. I get it. I don't even know if you can buy them anymore. And you know what? I'm not even saying that you need to buy something like this, but it's handy to have. It's probably not expensive. Who knows what they are anymore? I think I paid $30 or $40 for that, but it's been decades ago. But if you don't have something like that, just use the little torch, heat it up, burn off all the fuel, and then put them back in, and let's see what happens. And play with that gas. Okay, that's something that a technician kind of needs to know how to do. Is how to play with that gas. And you know, I learned that when I was younger because we had carbureted cars and they would do this a lot. So you kind of have to know when to let off the gas and get it cleared out and play around and turn the key off. Don't overheat the starter. There's a technique to it, but you guys will learn it. You guys will do it. It's one of those things you have to experience to do. So I'd love to hear how you guys would handle it. This one's going to be easy. This is going to be 6 spark plugs, a battery, and they're going to be good to go down the road.
This one's going to be easy. This is going to be 6 spark plugs, a battery, and they're going to be good to go down the road.
Okay, so it's a couple of days later. We put the spark plugs in this vehicle. Let me give you a quick rundown of what happened. We put the spark plugs in it, and we got it running, and it ran okay, and then it started running bad again. It started running real rich again. So we got into the fuel trims, and they were running way up there. I mean, it was so bad that it was actually going back into open loop. It wouldn't control anything, which was very unusual. So we got into it. Chris and I started messing around with it, and we pulled the vacuum line off of the purge valve, and it didn't make a difference. So we're like, okay, it's not a purge valve. We went through numerous things. We went through mass airflow sensor, looking for VE, everything looked okay. It started getting worse and worse, and we're like, we just basically eliminated everything we could possibly think of for rich running. I mean, we didn't go down the path of wrong injectors or something because they haven't been changed. So we disconnected the fuel. So it had a full tank of gas, and we're going to come back to that. It had a full tank of gas. So we're like, maybe he got some kind of weird gas, got something wrong. I mean, it wouldn't be E85 because that would make it run lean. So, but we just thought maybe he got something bad. Who knows? So we put basically put a tank here, and we pressurized it and put it into the fuel rail, and we ran it off of that, and it ran good off of that. So we're thinking, okay, you've got some bad gas. So we pulled it back off, put it back together, and we're just starting it up again, and now it started running lean. Now, when we did the pull the fuel rail off, we did hear after it was running for a few minutes, it kind of ran a little bad, and then it started to clear itself out a little bit, and then it ran good on that tank. So we just figured the fuel trims were coming back in. They were way skewed, and it was coming back in. So then we hooked it back up, and it was running good, even on the tank gas. So I was like, okay, what just happened, right? And then it started running real lean. It started, the opposite direction of what we were. It started running the lean direction. And guys, this is real life. This is what we deal with, right? As technicians, this is what we deal with. So now this thing's running lean. It was running rich. Clearly it's not the gas tank fuel because, now we're back on the tank, and now it's running the opposite of what it was. So, again, went okay. Looked at the mass airflow again. Did something happen? Did we mess something up? I don't know. We were messing around with a lot of stuff. Did VE again. Everything was good. And then we got to looking at it a little closer, and we think we know what happens. It's fixed now. This tank was slam full. When I mean full, I mean the gas gauge is like pegged out. So I think what happened is that when the client filled it up, they overfilled it. We all know that people do that. We try to teach people not to do that, but they sit there and they keep popping and popping and popping and popping. I think what happened was it sucked up a whole bunch of fuel into that purge valve, and I think it was sitting in that intake. I think that there was maybe a low spot or something. It had to be some fuel sitting in there, right? So, and it was making it run rich, and then that purge valve was just causing an issue, making it run rich. And the reason I think there was some puddled up fuel in there somehow is because when we had that thing disconnected, there was no fuel in it. It was still running rich. So as far as in the line for the purge valve, so I feel like there had to be some fuel somewhere in this intake, and I haven't pulled it off to look at it. Maybe it's got a low spot down in there. I don't know, but there had to be fuel in this. Because I think once that got burnt out, once we got the regular fuel running on it, you know, took the tank off, we revved it up a bunch, I think it cleared out whatever was in there, and then when we hooked everything back up, it was the fuel tank level, because we had been working on this thing a little bit, the fuel tank level had gone down a little bit. I don't think it's pulling fuel in there anymore through the purge valve. So, and as we were sitting here, I heard the purge valve make, I mean, we all know the purge valve will tick, right? But it started making some really crazy noise. I'm talking about, I mean, just not a normal purge valve sound. So I'm like, that purge valve is bad. That purge valve has been damaged by that fuel, which is why we teach people not to overfill the fuel tank. So I feel like the scenario was overfilled the fuel tank, pulled a bunch of fuel in, made it run real rich. It probably was continuing to pull fuel in. When the purge valve opened up, at times it was pulling in a bunch of fuel, and then when it wasn't pulling the fuel in, it probably had some residual in there. Let me know if you guys have ever run into that before. I know in some other intake designs where they run down low, definitely can happen. But what we've done, when it went lean, right, and I took the purge valve off, the vacuum line off the purge valve and blocked it, thing ran perfect. So I think the fuel level went down, purge valve it was still messed up, and now it's not pulling fuel in, now it's pulling, you know, it's basically a vacuum leak. So put a purge valve on it. It's been running. Our fuel trims now are absolutely perfect. It's hard to see, I think, in the, you know, let's see if I can't. Is that good? So these things were at one point, you know, 40% rich, and now then they went to 50% lean, and now they're sitting there running perfect. Everything's great. Our mass airflow sensor right now, just so you guys know, is sitting at 3.43 grams per second. This is a 3.5 liter. Can you not see it? Yeah, let me see if I can't. How about that? That good? Anyway, I know it's hard. We're out here in the sun, guys. We're just trying to do this thing, get a wrap on it. But just so you know, just as information, when that purge valve was messing up and it was running, making it go lean, that mass airflow sensor was reading about little over 2 grams per second. So we would think that was bad, but it was bad because of that leak right there. And what kind of pushed me towards that was we had real lean. We went back to basics on that one. When it was lean, we went back to basics. Those are kind of easier to determine rather than rich. It was lean at idle. When I revved it up, took it up by 2,500 RPM, our fuel trims came in to normal range. That would normally tell me that's a vacuum leak. So we didn't have any vacuum leaks. I went ahead and plugged that off, and that fixed it. So a little bit more in-depth than just 6 spark plugs and a low battery. You know, this thing went, not gonna say we went down a rabbit hole, but we peeked in the rabbit hole a little bit. And it's good now, though. It's 100% fixed for sure. And now we've got, you know, the information we can give to the client, like what happened, and then teach him not to do that with the fuel tank again. So. And it's 100% why you test drive cars, because this thing actually ran okay when we first put the spark plugs in it. It ran okay. It took a couple drives and actually was going into the car wash bay when our tech heard it not running, not wanting to start up right again. So he's like, whoa, stop, and pulled it back in. So, and it was going to go on one last quality drive. We always do a quality control drive when we're done. So yeah, you need to test drive cars. So hope this helps. Hope this was a good video. Definitely was a little bit convoluted. Was for us for sure. I know you guys live that stuff every day. And we appreciate you watching. Hit that subscribe button. 88% of you watching this video right now aren't subscribed. Hit that subscribe button. Doesn't cost anything. It helps the channel out. It helps us get more reach. Hit that thing. Hit that bell notification and give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. Let me know how you like the video. I do read them all. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you in the next one.